Hello, welcome back. Well, we've been talking about the economy a lot on the programme today, and a little earlier I spoke to the new director of the Institute for Fiscal Studies, Helen Miller. It's her first TV interview in the role. She starts today, so we've got her thoughts on the UK's economic outlook and also what options the Chancellor has. Thank you very much for being here, particularly today, which is your first day, I think, as head of the IFS, so thanks for carving out that time.
Thank you for having me.
The IFS obviously has now quite an influential role in shaping political debate and also, frankly, carving out government policy as well. So what are your kind of priorities as director?
Well, I think in some ways to carry on doing what the IFS has always done really well, which is partly behind the scenes to create the evidence base so that governments have the evidence on which they can make, important decisions, and partly to keep holding governments to account, so to keep talking about the issues that they're not keen to talk about and raising awareness of the really important things to make sure that both governments and voters and all of us know the big choices the government have.
It feels to me like there's been a very kind of gloomy assessment of where the UK economy is right now, whether it's debt levels, whether it's an ageing population, whether it's the kind of tax versus public services people expect. Do you sort of share that concern, I guess, is my question?
Well, I share the concern that there are definitely challenges. I think we're right to be worried about high levels of debt, high levels of debt interest, growth that's been anaemic for a long time and that, really matters. So I think they are concerning. I'm not gloomy in the sense that I think we could do better, actually. Not that it's easy and there's a magic button the government could press that would make everything OK, but I think we could do things that would make growth better. We could manage the public finances in a way that started to get debt down. So
how would you do those things then?
Well, I think on the growth one, which is the thing that would really move the dial. I think what's difficult is that there's no one policy. I think you have to do the hard yards across lots of policy areas. But just to take one example that I know well and take tax policy, what the government's really done is tied its hands and say, I don't want to do very much, or we'll scrape by budget by budget. But actually, it raises so much money in tax in ways that are often really pretty damaging to growth. I think we should be throwing the kitchen sink at this, and in all policy areas, including tax, finding ways to drive up growth. So there are taxes we have. Give you one example, stamp duty. I think every opportunity we should bash stamp duty is an awful tax. We could revalue council tax, raise more through council tax and scrap stamp duty. That would be pro-growth. There's lots of things like that.
So stamp duty is a bad tax because it basically has a distorting effect on the housing market, is that?
Yeah, it just slows down people. It just discourages people from moving house and gums up the housing market. And look, taxes often come with downsides. I think the point of stamp duty is that where's the upside? What is it giving you that another tax couldn't give you better?
Whereas if you get the same money through revaluing council housing, which I guess some people would say would be more fair as well.
Well, yeah, the council tax has got a few problems. One of them is that currently it's really unfair because it's based on property values from 1991. I mean, imagine if we did that with income. If we based your income tax bill on your income in 1991, we'd know that was absurd. But we're doing that for our housing tax. But it's regressive. So the more expensive the property you live in, the smaller the share of your tax. And I think it's hard to justify that element of it.
What's your view on a wealth tax?
Well, I think people mean different things by a wealth tax. I think if you mean a tax on the annual stock of wealth, then I think it's not where I would go, basically. I think it's got problems in principle. It basically taxes wealth the longer you hold it. It discourages saving and investment. And in practical terms, the government is not currently valuing all wealth. It would be a really big thing to get this kind of off the ground and administer it. What I think we should do is look at the taxes we already have on wealth, so capital gains being a great example, and fix those. And again, that's a great example where we have lower rates of tax on capital gains, but at the same time, because of how we design the tax reliefs, we'd manage to discourage investment and risk-taking. So again, we should look at reform. We should fix the tax base, not, for example, tax inflationary gains, but do tax gains in a more sensible way. So I would start with what we've currently got and making that better.
There's been an awful lot of discussion about taxes because of the situation that the Chancellor is in at the minute. It looks very difficult for her to get through any kind of savings through spending cuts. She's done the spending review, she tried to get disability changes through, that didn't work. And obviously, when it comes to debt and the interest we pay on debt, she feels like she's butting up at the end of her fiscal rules. Do you think it's inevitable that taxes will go up in the autumn?
I don't think it's inevitable in the sense that I think we should remember that the government has a choice here. It's not like a law of nature. There are other things a government could do and different governments could do different things. So I don't think we should think that the only thing the UK can do is put up taxes. But I think for the reasons you've described, given where the Chancellor is, I think it's more likely than not that we will see tax rise. I think the question now really is is how big will the tax rises need to be? Which ones will she choose? And again, what we should be asking of the government is, and given that you're going to change the tax system, can you please do it in a way that is less damaging to growth? Can you look at the whole system and not just get super focused on the changing by a few billion?
How do you think Rachel Reeves is viewed by business?
I don't know. I mean, somebody's asked business, but I think that there are some things that they're going to like. So, for example, there's a corporate tax roadmap that says the government won't raise, corporation tax, and that's a tax where there was lots of chopping and changing in the past. So, I think a bit more stability there is probably good. There's well documented upset about the increase in the employer national insurance contributions, and that is a tax on employment, on jobs. I think most businesses won't like the ongoing uncertainty of sort of limping from budget to budget, knowing that something else is coming but not quite knowing what it is. The uncertainty itself is damaging. It's just the speculation around what's going to happen and not knowing, do they have to do something different or pay more tax? I think that is damaging.
And can I just ask you finally about Donald Trump as well? It's we're reporting on him again today with what's happening with Ukraine, his relationship with Russia as well. How big of an impact has he had on obviously the global economy, but on the UK as well?
So I think it does matter for the UK what other governments are doing, including what the US government is doing. One of the things that will have changed sort of materially between when the Chancellor went to Parliament with the spring statement and when she goes in the autumn is Donald Trump's presidency and the increased tariffs and the increased global uncertainty. That's bad for UK growth. So I think that's one of the things that matters for the UK. It's also worth saying, though, that in some sense you've got to control what you can control, and we can't control the American elections, but lots of things we can do here at home. And we need a system that's robust to the world changing. I mean, in some sense, the world's always changing. It shouldn't be the case. It's not that unusual that something else in the world happens. We need a system that doesn't need tweaking every time the world does a little bit of changing.
OK, thank you very much. Great to have you on the programme.
Thank you.